Hi, this is Knitfix and Chill with Jen and Bess. It's a podcast for knitters who want to go deeper. We share our perspectives on fit, techniques, creativity, and other industry topics, and we're so glad you're joining us. I'm Jen. I'm a knitwear designer and consultant, and this is Bess.
I am Bess. I'm also a knitwear designer and an artist, and let's roll.
Yeah, let's do this thing. Hey, Bess. So, what's your tea?
So today my tea is literally the rest of a cold brew from guess where, and a glass of water. So we are filming today in the morning instead of the afternoon. I have a couple more pieces of tea though. First, I just want to say for anyone that is watching this podcast on YouTube that I curl my hair when we are recording and my hair is dirty. So I just don't want anyone to think that I actually look like this all the time. But it's my fail-safe for not taking a shower. And what's on my mind in terms of like knitting content that y'all actually might be interested in, I am really thinking about raglans. I have only designed 2 in the past, and being honest, one of them, my tech editor really helped me with the grading because it was like my first or second sweater design, and I didn't know what I was doing at all. And that first sweater I discontinued now because I am redesigning my first 2 designs to be more size inclusive. So I have a chance now that I'm working on my 3rd raglan pattern to really think about like what I want to do the same and what I might want to do differently. I'm wearing the Clearly hoodie, which is a raglan design I have out there available. And I love this hoodie. I love the way it turned out. And there's a bunch of things that I'm going to be doing differently still.
What's the thing you're most excited to update or do differently?
Okay, this is really it. When I designed this hoodie, as well as the Sarah pullover, I was experimenting with giving more fabric to the front than the back. And I did that across sizes, which has worked out fine. However, like all the time I'm noticing, even though it's only about an inch more in the front than the back in my size, that for me in size 2, it actually puts my armpit like back here in the sort of back of my armpit for you guys who are on audio. So while that is a really useful thing to do in the larger sizes, I am going to make that change where it is not in the smaller sizes, and add it more into the larger sizes. And one of the reasons I'm really comfortable doing that now is also because all of my patterns that I'm releasing this year and in the future will have a full bust adjustment modification in there. Yeah. So adding more fabric to the front accommodates a larger breast and or more tissue. It also accommodates larger bellies and is a good modification. However, in the smaller end of the sizes, I don't think it serves like size 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because this is a modification I have also experienced. Well, not a modification, but a pattern writing and pattern grading decision I have also experimented over the years. And what I have landed on, and you can see it in this sweater, is taking about 40% of the difference between the upper chest and the full bust. And so at the bottom of the grade, It's 0, right? At the bottom of the grade, right, our size chart both has upper chest and full chest as the same measurement. At the top of the grade, it's like 8 inches different. Well, that's too much for me to like, the grading on that is going to be, the fit on that would be unattractive. Like it wouldn't be right if I took that whole difference because our bodies do get more just because of what bodies do. So I have found that by taking about half of that, then I can still use the same cup size guidance for all the sizes to get a consistent fit
Yeah.
And a lot of this is
Your
just
side seam
experimentation.
kind of in the right place, right? So,
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, I'm having coffee also because we are recording in the morning. And I am a start the engine with coffee, keep it going with tea kind of girl.
yes.
I think what's really on my mind, and it's funny that you and I are both thinking about our appearances as we are being very deliberate with how we look in these first episodes that we're recording. Because I'm also wearing much more makeup for these than I usually do because it feels a little bit stagey, right? Like we've got the lights.
Yeah, we just want to look good for y'all. we're trying so hard for y'all in all the areas.
Yeah, and it's just got me like these days I'm just kind of really thinking about what makes me feel most myself, right? And which of my knits make me feel the most myself. Like I don't always design for me first. I usually try and think about what my customers are telling me they want, but sometimes finding ways to incorporate the things that I have designed into my wardrobe opens up new doors for me to feel more like myself in my clothes and in my body. So that's kind of what's on my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I also find that really interesting because I know that you started your design journey more with children's garments. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did.
So you started really like not thinking as much about yourself, whereas I started my design journey not even wanting to share the patterns, but just designing things for myself because I wanted certain knit garments that I couldn't find on the market. So I am just starting to get to like that transition where my designs are not like first my aesthetic, although they definitely still are, but
right,
like that bridge between what my people like and what I like, although thankfully they're kind of the same, right?
It's like a Venn diagram and we're trying to get those circles closer to overlapping.
Exactly.
What y'all want, what I want, what's in the middle. How do we get more things in the middle there? And I feel like I'm finally, after a few years, kind of beginning to hit that stride. My newer designs are ones that I'm like, I want to wear this now.
I know.
While I wait for release, I don't want to mess them up in case they need to go be samples somewhere. But
it's so hard for me to even not wear my samples like before photography sometimes because I'm like, but I need to know what it lives like and like I want to show it off now.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so today we are going to get into size inclusion and shape inclusion. And so y'all listening to us, just a reminder, this is only our second time recording an episode, so we're big, awkward weirdos still, but we love you. So thank you for being on this journey with us.
Yeah, and on that note, if I can jump in,
you can.
I live in an apartment and we are learning how to like best reduce noise. It's a quiet apartment. It is not like my New York City apartments where I could hear everything in the building. But hopefully we'll have a nice quiet background for you guys today. But please forgive us as we get there, as we get to podcast perfection.
Yeah. We don't want much. We just want to be perfect.
That's all I've ever wanted.
Okay. There are also so because we're going to be talking about bodies and shapes and what we've decided to do as designers and small business owners, we kind of want to preface this conversation with a few thoughts, right? Like, first of all, we're evolving. Yeah. So we're going to tell you where we are now, but it's not the same place we were 6 months ago, and it's not the same place we're going to land. And we might have like super strong opinions about things and be wrong.
Yeah.
So y'all tell us if you think that we could change our language somewhere, or if you have another perspective that you think we should consider.
Yeah, I am not perfect, but Jen and I both are really interested in serving you and our communities. And we want to know if we mess up, we're totally here to hear that. We also want to know if you're like really digging something because it'll help us just keep putting out the content that you want to watch or listen to.
Yeah. So let's start with some definitions before we get into the juicy part. So for somebody who's new to size inclusion, how would you define it?
A size inclusion to me is making sure that your pattern is offered in a wide range of sizes that will suit many people instead of perhaps 4 sizes that suit only a few people.
Yeah. And the other part of that, right, is that it fits the same way, that the fit is consistent, that visually it looks like the same sweater on a size 2 as it does on a size 12.
Right. Which I do want to say is actually quite a feat and something that designers learn how to do. And it's something that good designers are always striving for, in my opinion.
Yeah. My take is it all happens in the neckline.
Whoa, I'm shocked to hear you say that, Jen.
That I have a strong opinion about necklines? Really?
That's weird.
I have a grading client who has a really specific vision for where she wants her garments to sit, and it's very close to the neck. And so the closer those designs are to the neck, the more a little bit of variation changes the visual of the sweater, right? So the difference between laying flat right next to the neck and laying right up on the neck can just be the difference between variation in bodies within the same size. And so that precision starts to be really important. And so, yeah, so spoiler, I think it's the neck. So what's a full range?
To me, a full range is at least 30 to, like, I want to say 64, but 60 is like, I know you're trying. Yeah. So it's somewhere in there. Maybe it's 28, but it's close to 30, close to 60. What do you think?
I agree with you that it definitely includes 30 to 60 and ideally includes 28 and 64 also. Part of doing a good job with size inclusion is using a well-researched size chart, right? And most of the size charts that are available do not cover some of the larger sizes that designers are beginning to try to serve, right? They're not well-researched and there's some extrapolation. And
Absolutely.
so I feel like it's important to be respectful of people who are like, that information doesn't exist. And so anything is a guess past that point, and that doesn't feel right. You know, and I also think it's legitimate to be like, we need to try to serve those sizes. So I hold a little bit of gray space there at the top of the range between 60 and 72.
Yeah. And what size do you design to?
You know, recently I've been grading to a 70. And those upper sizes are extrapolated, right? They're based on the patterns in the charts that we have, the size charts. You know, and this is a good point to introduce, like, how grading happens. So when designers grade, we start with a size chart.
Yeah. And the size chart is not the same thing as a size chart that you would see in, like, the pattern in the schematic or in the sizing area or in, like, online shopping for pre-made clothes. What Jen is talking about when she says a size chart is a body chart, right? So body charts are like industry inside for people who design clothes. And it tells us the size of hopefully many, many different measurements across many size ranges, right? So I also design to 70, and also there are not widely available body charts that I've seen that go up that high. So yeah, I've had to, like, look at the patterns in the chart in order to find the information, or really to make up the information for those sizes. And then I know you do the same. Both of us will tweak not only the upper sizes, but any of the sizes in our charts based on what we see when we design, when we run tests, when we talk to knitters of all of these different sizes about what their fit issues are.
Exactly. Yeah. A designer size chart becomes a very personal lived in thing. And so a designer will take that size chart and they will take their vision or their sample for the pattern and apply the same fit at every critical fit point. And so what that means is it should have the same silhouette and fit for every size. So we wouldn't want to see, for example, a size 2 have 4 inches of ease at the bust and a size 10 have 0, right? We would see every size has the same amount of positive ease. There are a few exceptions, like negative ease garments are one, or something with like ruffles. We might not see straight positive fixed ease like that. But in general, we would expect to see the same ease at every critical fit point for every size. And so that's what grading is. And there are limitations, right? We have shape limitations.
Yes. Yeah. I want you to expand on that. What are the shape limitations that you find designing? Because there are many, and I feel like you're going to have the better words on that one.
Yeah. So because we're working from a size chart that has one body shape for each size, we don't get any other variability other than how the body has deposited fat and tissue onto the skeleton. So our size charts all are for a person who is the same height, about 5'5.5". So I can't design and write a sweater that has 10 sizes for 4 different heights without writing you an encyclopedia. Similarly, the size charts come in air quotes men's and air quotes women's. So you have 2 separate frames with different relationships. So it's not just that the bust is different and the shoulders are different and the arms are different and the armhole depth is different. It's that the relationships between those things are different. So they're not interchangeable.
Right.
Yeah. And then the other limitation is if your size chart for your body is for like an hourglass shape or an apple shape or somebody with slimmer arms, that difference should be preserved throughout the chart, right? So it fits the same for every size. And so we can't write a pattern that is both for, if we have a pattern that is waist conscious, by which I mean it's fitted at the waist, our size chart will help us do that for one waist measurement. It won't help us do that for people like me who have an apple shape and people who, like you, have a more traditional hourglass shape, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's like one of the big things when we talk about designing, that designers have to, one, choose a set number of ease. So I know one of your pet peeves is when people give a range of ease, and we'll probably talk about that a little more, like why. And then also designers have to choose a shape. So we have to choose which body chart we're using, if it is like a cis woman or a cis man. And I hope to see like even more options maybe in the future one day. However, those are the options we have now. And like I have chosen to design for an hourglass because I have a more exaggerated hourglass, regardless of my weight. And I have testers of many sizes that also have an hourglass. That's not something that has anything to do with size. That is shape. That's the way that your body holds its mass, right?
Yep.
Jen's patterns tend to be more A-line because she's designing for a different shape.
Yeah. Perfect. So today we're going to do 2 questions from listeners. We have both a designer and a knitter, which I think is super fun. And we're going to do just like we did last time. We're going to read these questions and then we're going to circle back at the end of our conversation and make sure that we've addressed y'all's questions. So we heard from Brenda. Brenda said, I'd love to hear a discussion about the realistic expectations of a knitting pattern in regards to fit beyond sizing. Just how much customization is the designer versus the knitter responsible for, or how much should they each be expected to bring to the partnership? I love framing this as a partnership. So thank you for your question, Brenda. Jessica is a knitter, and she wrote and told us, my hips are a good 6 inches larger than the fullest part of my bust. So without some decent shaping, lots of patterns are going to get cropped or ignored by me because I cannot stand a sweater that is tight on my hips. I would love to see more patterns include fit adjustments. I have a very good sense of my body shape and measurements, so I'm comfortable with knowing what will work and what won't. But I also sometimes struggle to figure out the best way to add some ease to the hips, right? So we have this pattern handoff, right, is how I think of it, Yeah.
And both of these questions are a little bit more about shape. And I honestly think that that's where a lot of knitters are getting tripped up as well. So I'm glad, and thanks for sending your questions. And we love hearing from you guys.
Yeah. I think that both of us have evolved not only in how we include size inclusion in our business values and our design practices, but also there's been variation in how much shaping guidance we're offering for knitters. So I think of it as handoff, right? So like my job is to create a handoff ready pattern. It's ready for me to give to the knitter for them to take responsibility of. And for different patterns, we might assume that knitter has more or less ability or knowledge or experience to take over.
Right. And obviously first-time sweater knitters might be a little bit disadvantaged because you're learning this information. And at the same time, I would encourage everyone to really remember the process and that your first sweater you are learning. And maybe by like your 10th sweater, you're going to see really different results and you're going to have really different knowledge about what you're looking for. So Jen, what about you? If we rewind, not even back to your first days as a designer, but like as a knitter, when you started knitting sweaters, do you remember what that was like?
Are you asking me to confess my rogue age crimes? Because this could be a whole lecture on rogue age crimes. But ignoring the fact that I was like, cool, I got stitch gauge, so rogue age, whatever. I didn't really knit sweaters for myself. And partly that's because I was coming up as a knitter when everything was like super body conscious and not my size. My body's changed a lot over the years. I had a larger body when I was knitting as a beginner knitter than I do now. And there weren't patterns for me, so I didn't really knit for myself a lot. The first pattern I did actually knit for myself that turned out great was a seamed piece. Actually, it was the first sweater I think I knit for myself. And I knitted at my mom's, so she made sure I got rogue age. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, so now I'm like everyone's mom, right? And it was a men's pattern. I knit myself a men's pattern because I felt like I needed to lean into boxy men's styles in order to have something that wasn't going to make me feel terrible about the way that my body didn't comply with the norm of feminine beauty, right? So still have that sweater, still wear it. Feels like a son of a bitch, but I wear it. How about you?
You know, honestly, some of what you're saying is like so heartbreaking to me that like you weren't finding patterns in your size when you started knitting sweaters. And some of what you're saying, I actually really relate to, even though I have usually been like a size 2 or a size 3. I'm a pretty petite, like short woman. And my body is what I like to call juicy. So I have knit a lot of sweaters that were designed for my bust size or upper bust size, and then found that either they were falling off too big or that my arms didn't really fit in them, which kind of made me feel like crap about my own body because I didn't really know like what to look for, how to address that, that a lot of size charts have really tiny arms, and that's something that I've changed in my designing, but also rogue age. I ended up with a lot of like cardigans that came down to like my knees, and that was okay with me as a yoga teacher because a really long cardigan isn't horrible to wear over leggings and a tank top. But yeah, I've come a long way. We'll just say that.
Yeah, I mean, so in like 2007, 2008, you either got like boxy interweave knit style magazine patterns,
which I knit a lot of.
Yeah, or you got like cable hoodie elf body conscious zipper sweaters.
Yeah, fitted.
Those were your choices.
Fitted, yeah, and they were scary.
Like the vests, right? 2008, like the vest that you put the shirt under.
I know, which has never been my personal style, although I am often impressed by how cute other people look in vests. I have never put a vest on and been like, this is it.
Yes, please look at my non-compliant torso. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, please highlight the size of my bicep by exposing it only.
So let's talk about like your design journey then. What has been your relationship to size inclusion?
Well, it's been a journey. It really has. I have always wanted to prioritize size inclusion. And when I started designing, I even thought, like, maybe I'm going to be designing and it'll be completely shape inclusive and it'll be size inclusive and it'll be gender inclusive. And then if you're familiar with my designs, they are not gender inclusive anymore. I mean, you are welcome to knit them, anyone, everyone, but I really have an ultra feminine personal aesthetic, and I have decided that is my aesthetic. In terms of size inclusion, though, I had the desire and I lacked the skill and the understanding and the resources to make it a reality. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know where to look. Like, I was Googling things like, what is a size inclusive design? And I feel like I got one of those pop-up Google answers that was like 54 inches. And I was like, okay. And I like looked at all the patterns in my library, which were very 2008-y. And most of them were up to like a 54, 50 inch full bust. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, 54, I guess it's 54. And my first two designs were only graded to 54, which I have discontinued now because I have realized that is not my definition of size inclusion. And it's not a lot of people's either. I had some great conversations with people who challenged those designs when they first came out, being like, this isn't size inclusive. And I was like, open to that feedback. So I've grown a lot, and I've formed some positive relationships even through critique. And now I am designing up to a 70 inch, but there were a few steps along the way, because at the same time that I have always desired to be size inclusive, I also have always desired to cause no harm to anyone who knits my patterns. And I pushed to 60, and then I think I did like 64, and then I got up to 70, like little by little, because I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing enough to not put out a sweater that fit really poorly in those upper sizes.
Yeah, in some ways I'm a little bit jealous of new designers because they have so many more tools, right? There's so many more options. There's different classes are available for them. Different books are available from them. The size charts that are available now have upper chest. We didn't have that in the free charts.
A lot of tech editors and even designers like yourself, Jen, offer consulting for grading now, which maybe existed 3 years ago, but it may just reflect that I'm like more a part of the community now. I feel like I see a lot more of it really recently. And that's like a consulting session is a more affordable way of like improving your grading, in my experience, than some of the courses that I wanted to take, but I really truly couldn't afford it in the pandemic, being a yoga teacher who was out of work for a really long time. Yeah.
I mean, there's a trade-off, right? We need to make investments in our skill sets. And sometimes those are going to be more time investments. And sometimes those are going to be more formal education type investments. And then there are the things in the middle, like working closely with a consultant or a TE on an as needed basis to help you fill in your gaps. So, and I started with kids designs, which is how I also learned to knit, because I felt like I could work my way through multiple samples before being like, okay, yes, I've got this. Now it feels like I go back to grade a kid's pad and I'm like, what do their bodies do again? Like, this is like a foreign mystery. But like, Julie Robinson is a grading teacher. She teaches grading, and she has been talking about making, like, you can make a 1/4 scale, right? Garment. I wish I'd done that. But, the principles are the same regardless. And in some ways, I think it was better to practice with kids, because then I could put it on an actual body and see, did my grading hold up against my expectations, right? So much of grading is you develop an expectation that you have a methodology, right? And will that methodology result in the thing you think it will? Because if it does for one size, it's likely to for other sizes. So you learn to trust your methods.
Yeah. Although a lot of that is also like learning to grade, because there are different ways to approach grading. and different tweaks that like we've both made to our body charts that will help us to get more of the results that we are looking for across all sizes. And in the beginning, like I said, I had to ask my tech editor to help me grade that first raglan because I did the classic rookie mistake of being like, this gets X amount longer every size, and ended up with like armholes and neck lines that were super deep in the upper sizes, where my TE was like, perhaps you meant to do this in a different way. And I was like, I think what I meant is to ask you to can you help me?
But yeah, that's a great example of how a designer could approach this by doing the parts that they're comfortable with, coming up with an idea and running it past somebody with more experience, and then just getting targeted help. I got really lucky in that I didn't really have any intention of designing adult patterns because I didn't like knitting for myself because nothing ever looked good on me. And then I submitted a kid's design to a publication, and they were like, great, we want it for kids through adults. Will you do it? And I was like, of course, yes. And then I immediately had a month-long panic attack because I didn't know what I was doing. But they paid, because they were paying me a really fair rate, I turned 100% of that. I was working part-time, so I had a full-time job, but I was able to turn 100% of that fee into a class on grading that I was able to take while I was grading this design, which was a great start. Yeah. And then this is how lucky I was. The company that bought that went out of business, and they just gave me the pattern back, tech edited with the rights. They were like, you can just have it. Like, we're not going to do it. Game over. And so it didn't ever get published. And I had a chance before releasing my first pattern to do more work on it and send it through my own personal TE. And that was soft structure. And I released it almost a year in. So I didn't have that first awkward, insufficient pattern because I had all these opportunities. I had this big opportunity to come back after I'd been like, okay, what would I do differently, and reincorporate them before I even released it. And so, it was this several strokes of luck there in that my first agreement paid fairly, and then it didn't even get published. And the timing worked out that I was able to do that grading class. Like, they had open doors right when I had that paycheck in my hand. So a lot of privilege and luck there.
That's very fortuitous. And I will say, for y'all that don't know, a lot of publications have a very short turnover time. So what I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm hearing you wrong, Jen, is that, like, one, it sounds like they had a fairly generous turnover time in the first place that you were able to take a course.
It was like 6 weeks.
Oh,
I'm
no,
intense, though. No, I'm intense. I did like 4 hours of schoolwork every night for 5 weeks. Like,
yeah, I do know that about you too. Jen is always sending me messages at like midnight, and I'm like, I go to bed at 9:30, Jen.
Oh my God, I assume you just have me on Do Not Disturb.
I mean, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb so often during the day that I feel I have to like turn it off at night in order for anyone to be able to talk to me. And then, don't worry, you have never truly disturbed me, but I just wake up and I'm like, Jen,
get off.
And then though, because publication didn't design it, did you have time to like go back and tweak it? And you did more.
Yeah, I incorporated feedback from a test that I was running that was also a raglan, and so both of those designs came out much more polished than they would have had I not had that series of events.
Yeah, that's really nice. Sometimes I really wish that I had not released my first 2 designs yet, because I was like, they were released close together. I worked on them kind of at the same time. And so there was a part of me that was like, okay, I just have to do this and get these out there. I am very much like a learn by doing person. And I thought, like, if I don't just start this, then I'm going to get stuck. It's never going to happen. I don't know how to even learn this without doing it and just trying. At the same time, though, it was like right at that moment that I met you, and we had a lot of great conversations about grading, about editing, about sizing and photography. Yeah.
Instagram and running a small business and all of it. Yeah.
Being self-employed. And we each had areas that were strengths, and we were able to share with each other and help each other grow. That like, by the time I had hit launch, I was like, man, these aren't good enough. I wish I could redo them. I'm going to have to come back and redo them. And then my third design didn't feel like that, but those first two were discontinued earlier this year, or earlier in 2022, so that I could re-release them. And now I'm doing that, and it feels really good. So, you know, everyone's journey is their journey, but there's a little bit of envy there at the idea that you got to, or that you chose to incorporate feedback and, you know, make it work.
I will also say that I was, quote unquote, fortunate, because I started designing at a point in my life where I was also embarking on a lot of healing from kind of a disordered relationship with food, eating, and exercise. And so right at the time when I started designing, I had gone through my feed and like unfollowed anyone who was having anything to say about bodies, and like deliberately found a bunch of hashtags about size inclusion and fat knitters. And like a lot of my healing on that side was following these other people who were having these conversations. So it really, like, I lucked into some of those earliest conversations about size inclusion, right? Like I started following Jackie Cieslak right when she started talking about defiantly eating ice cream, which was like a really beautiful moment in knitting and size inclusion. And so for me, I had that as a founding principle. Whereas if you weren't deliberately following those at that time, size inclusion was not a mainstream topic. So you had a real disadvantage there. In the way that I did not, and in the way that other knitters today did not.
Right. Which is funny to say because, you know, I mean, firstly, I'll say in my own mind that like I have a lot of personal issues that I've overcome, or that I'm overcoming with my body, being from the yoga industry, which, if you didn't know, is very unhealthy. It's just very unhealthy for body image. Like I was moving through the world with a inch bust and like a inch waist, and feeling like I was a big person. And I recognize that that might make some people feel really turned off. And I'm sorry, like if you just felt turned off, but that is just the truth, that like body image issues and a lack of size inclusion hurt all of us at every size. And so I wanted those resources and that community, but I had like very little. I had a lot of personal work to do to understand like a lot of things about sizes and bodies. And I also had like zero knitting community when I started, and I was in quarantine, alone. I lived alone. I was in quarantine in a studio apartment in Brooklyn for like 16 months. And so I was really grateful to start finding knitting community, but I like started my knitting Instagram when I started designing, and it was
Me too.
Yeah, it was all like finding people. And since I have had the privilege of being straight sized forever, a lot of the patterns that I knit from in the distant past really weren't size inclusive. And like a lot of the designers that I started looking to, I don't want to say that they're not size inclusive now, but they were not the most size inclusive then. Maybe it's because they were working for publications. If you didn't know, publications set the size range for a pattern when they hire you. So there's all kinds of things, all kinds of ins and outs that I was a bit blind and a bit biased, not against others, but in just the way I was like seeing data and numbers. And it takes a while to unpack and unfold and to grow as a person and as a designer.
Yeah. And you brought your own healing to the work, right? And so now you're offering, like, the first thing you did was the first thing I did, right? We go into our size chart and we say, it ain't going to be like this, right? And you like,
Right.
we're like, my girl's going to have thick arms, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
my girl, I'm just going to slam 4 inches onto the waist. I don't ever plan to design anything that is waist conscious, like that touches your torso at the waist. And so I didn't have to do that, but like, it was so liberating to just go in and be like, not for me. This is not happening on my size chart, right? So I think we both brought that same like healing to the work and are able to offer that because we're doing size inclusion for people who share our shapes.
And there's something that feels so good about going into a body chart that has 12 sizes or 11 sizes in it and being like, no, extra inches on these upper arms. We all have different upper arms. We all have thick upper arm. We're lifting. We're strong women. This is, you know, like, I will not feel ashamed of my biceps and triceps anymore.
So there was the size charts.
Exactly. When you get, and that's what designers do, right? If you don't know this, we go into our body chart, and most of the time designers tweak their body charts, yes, based on feedback and also based on our own bodies. And it's scary to do that because I'm like, but what if I'm just a freak? But then like this, my Hypatia pullover, I just read some feedback last night from a tester who said, this is the best fit I've ever had in a sweater. And they are not new to knitting sweaters. They have tested for me before as well. And it was like a moment of beauty. And they are not my size. They are like 3 or 4 inches, or sorry, 3 or 4 sizes up, which means like 12 inches or so up across the bust, and or even 16. I would have to look at the data, whatever. But that feels great. It feels really good to know that, like, in serving yourself as a designer, you are also serving folks in your audience. Like, shapes can be consistent across a lot of sizes. And also everyone's personal shape is unique. So, that's where the knitter's opportunity to customize their fit comes into play, and is in remembering that even if you think you look exactly the same as the people modeling the pattern, it's the schematic that's really going to tell you if that pattern is going to be the perfect fit for you, right?
Right. Now we're talking about handoff, right? So what is the designer's responsibility? What is the role that the designer plays in this partnership? For me, it's designing a pattern that is modification ready and providing hints and tips if applicable, but also trusting that my knitter is going to know what's best for them, and that most knitters aren't going to want to pay $40 for a pattern. So there's a trade-off between how much we can put in a pattern and how much your intended audience is going to want to receive that, and how much they're going to value that. And
it's not just the money factor. It's also that the more you put into a pattern, the more confusing it is to follow that pattern.
Exactly.
And to be honest, like, when I include like shape inclusive modifications, sometimes I almost feel like it can be a disservice to spell out, like, if you want to do this, here's alternate instructions, because then I'm still having to make an assumption about your shape and your size. So, like, I can't include enough modifications for every single person to just be able to pick and go. There are ways to, like you said, to help guide, and also being like really upfront from the get-go, like having the schematic available. Also, in your description of the garment, like in our sales language on my website, in the product page, it will say like, this garment has waist shaping, or it won't. It'll say this garment like gently slopes from the full bust to the hip. So you can know, like, oh, this has waist shaping, I'm going to have to leave that out. And And it's okay to want to find a pattern that you don't have to modify. And sometimes that's what I want in my knitting experience. Like, I just want to knit it, follow the instructions. I'm not here to reassess everything. You're still going to have to assess to find that pattern. However, it's also not very difficult to leave out something like waist shaping or to adjust, like Jessica's question, that if you want to add more ease at the hip, that is something that you can learn how to do pretty easily. Should we like go ahead and just tell Jessica how to do that?
Yeah, we should.
So this is what I would do, Jessica. Knowing your own hip measurement and knowing what the recommended ease is, it's likely to be the same ease at the bust and the hip for most garments. Would you say that's true?
I would preserve the same bust at the hip and the waist, or hip and the bust, the same ease, yes.
Yeah. So knowing that, if we're talking about a garment that has 4 inches of positive ease, then you're going to take your hip measurement, you're going to add 4, and that's going to be the number, the size that you want the hip area of your sweater to be. So this is where knitters will have to do a bit of math by multiplying your stitch gauge by that number. So it's not a ton of math. That's the number of stitches that you're going to want for your hip area. So then you have to compare the number of stitches at your bust to the number of stitches at your hip, and your increases or decreases are probably going to be by counts of 4, right? So, because you do them all the way around the torso, assuming this is a seamless garment. Seamed garments, those increase and decrease sets are going to be 2 at a time, 2 stitches at a time. And so you're going to subtract the bust measurement from the hip measurement and divide that by 4 to figure out how many increase rounds you need. And then you have to look at the number of rows, which you can find by just multiplying the length by your row gauge, length to bust or length to underarm, and then subtract out the rows used for the bust. If the length to bust is provided, that makes it pretty easy. So now you have your number of stitches. You have your number of increases / decreases, depending on if it's top down or bottom up. And you have your number of rows. So this is the number of increase rounds, and this is the number of rows. How often do you need to do those rounds in order to get that number of rows? And if there is like a straight portion before the bust for the waist, then you would be going to that point. If it's an A-line garment that goes kind of right to the bust, then you're going to that point. Do you think that was a non-confusing way of saying this?
Yeah, I think that's how you do the math. I would add that everybody is going to get a more custom fit if they decide where to put that shaping. So knowing where you begin to be that bust measurement is helpful. If you don't begin to be that bust measurement until you're at the bust, you would want to distribute those increases pretty evenly. But if you are somebody with like kind of a stacked ass, frankly, you might want them to happen more quickly. And depending on how quickly they need to happen and how many of those increases are, you might prefer to move them so that they're not all included right at the sides. So the standard shaping for gentle shaping is to just increase and decrease at the sides. But if you need to make dramatic shaping, and 6 inches can be a little bit more dramatic, you might want to put it so that they are more evenly distributed. So kind of at the 1/3, 2/3 mark in the front and the 1/3, 2/3 mark in the back instead of right at the sides. So I would add that. You can finesse that. And so you can kind of see how this can be. We could not write this into a pattern. It's way too customized. It depends on what your literal shape is and how you change. But there were a number of things that you brought up as you were describing how to do that are things that we can do as designers to improve that pattern handoff experience, like having a really well labeled schematic that tells the knitter those distances so that they know how much they need to modify. If I'm a knitter and I know that I'm taller than the average, I do not want to have to calculate the schematic from the hip to the underarm to figure out how long it starts at, to know if this is graded for a person who's 5.5 inches and I'm 5'8" and I want to add 1.25 inches. Now I need to figure out how many rows they have so I know how many more rows I need to add and distribute my shaping differently. Like, I just want to be able to look and say, okay, this is how much I want to add, right? So having those schematic measurements, or like having the armhole depth. This is a place where a lot of people can benefit from a modification. If you're tall, you're not just going to add from the hem to the underarm. You're going to want to add some to the armhole depth, right? So,
yeah, and even if you're not tall, actually, I am 5'3", like on a good day. And I not only have a bicep measurement that is larger than my size chart would predict, I also have a deeper armhole, which Jen just told me. I've always assumed that those go hand in hand, but yesterday Jen and I were chatting about this, and they don't. So although I've learned that I often need to modify both arm size and armhole, not everyone will, right? Or some people will just want to tweak one or the other.
Yeah. So giving the knitter all the information they can in the pattern is one thing I think that designers can really focus on to make modifications easier. And then you and I have both started including full bust adjustments. For me, I need to include them in the pattern because my samples won't look right on me. They won't fit as intended unless I make that modification.
Same, actually. Which
we're going to get into next episode. But but yeah, and what I really also need to do is I need to begin working for myself a long arm adjustment, because I have like clinically long arms, and I should be doing that so that people know what the experience they will have is with the pattern. Because if you look at me wearing them, you might think I really love to knit a bracelet length sleeve, and that's not the case. I'm writing you a regular length sleeve. It just looks bracelet length on me. So I need to start making that modification. How about you? What do you want to begin doing? What are you excited about in terms of grading, size, and shape inclusion this year?
I mean, I'm really excited that I'm offering the full bust adjustments now, because it's taken me 36 and a half years to find out I have big boobs, first of all. And, right? Like, who would have thought? Little old me. And so my garments are fitting better. I'm just like finishing up my first garment that I've made for myself with the bust darts. And I was like, what?
You can't go back. Now that you know, you can't go back. You can't unknow that.
No, like things being shorter in the front isn't just the vibe. That's so weird. And I'm also, I'm excited for a lot of things. I'm excited about necklines this year. I think that realizing how full bust measurement is such a non-great place to start from has been huge for me. I've spent, like, on a personal note, I've spent my whole life wearing shirts that fall off of my shoulder. Like, I have always assumed that I have like narrow shoulders, even though I don't feel like I have narrow shoulders, but I've just always assumed like this is it. And obviously fast fashion is not looking for like best fit or anything. But being able to offer my knitters as well as myself a more couture kind of fit where like, hey, let's all be able to have this look on us the way that we want it to look. That feels amazing. So I think I'm really excited about boobs. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. The year of the boob for sure. That was me last year because I think it was my pattern in June, the Ruffle Addendum. I mean, I put bust darts in there because I could see that my knitters needed them, but it wasn't until I finished my sample and put it on that I was like, I needed this.
Right?
But I was intimidated, frankly. I was intimidated.
Me too. And I don't know. Sometimes it's just like the way we see ourselves is just not the way our bodies really are. One of my best friends is constantly being like, no, that's not what you look like whenever she hears me describe myself. And I think like being someone now who measures everything, that's like my best tip for you as a knitter. Do not choose your size based on your full bust. Don't do it. I can't do it anymore. I'm not ever going to do it again. And for so long, I would like look at that number, find my size, and not look at any of the other numbers and just be like, this is how it works when I buy clothes. Yeah. But we're not, as people who are making their own clothes, right? We're not doing that. We're doing couture. And being a knitter is really the same thing as being a seamstress once we get into making these garments, once we get into garment making. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're not cutting the fabric, but you're putting in every single stitch that makes the same shape. It's the same
thing.
And
even if you're knitting seamless, you are still a tailor. And so I'm excited that it like has kind of all clicked for me now. And I feel ready to really like know exactly which numbers to include in the schematic, which was mysterious for me for a while, and to know how to help people who may want to differentiate from that schematic. And I think I'm also excited about the fact that I don't feel afraid about like what I'm including or what I'm not including at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, I'm really, there are two things. So the thing I'm still scared of that I'm going to do this year is yokes, because I think that yoke sweaters let down most knitters. And so I'm excited to dig into that. Terrified, excited, that kind of thing. Like, I know that I'm not going to get a lot of sleep the month that I take that on, because my brain is going to be like, but did you think about this? How about this? All night long.
Yeah.
So I'm planning that for a slower month, because I know I'm going to be a lot. So expect a lot of voice messages while I'm working on that. And
no problem.
I'm excited to push back. So when I first started designing adult sweaters, I wasn't confident that I was designing something that people would like. And so I'd be like, well, I made this decision about the bicep circumference, but if you like something different, here's how you would change it. And I made myself go in and delete all that out and just write a pattern. And then recently I've been like adding a lot of that back in, and not for the same reason, not because I'm not confident, but because there's a lot of market pressure to make a pattern be everything to everyone. And you know what, frankly, I would rather offer my knitter an educational experience that lets them customize it themselves and be able to do 2 or 3 more exciting patterns for them a year.
Yeah.
Than to invest all this in trying to make something that's for everything to everyone. So yeah, I think I'm going to be writing more patterns that are just one thing with optional bust shaping, because it's so easy.
Yeah. Well, bust shaping is something that, one, including it doesn't really disrupt the pattern, right? It's like off in its own area, which of course we could do that with every modification. Bust starts are also the thing though that can make the most difference for the most people when we're talking about bodies with breasts.
Yeah.
So just as like being a knitting size 2 who has like a B, C cup, I did not think I needed that for myself. And I've been living my life just choosing based on my full bust, and learning, like, I feel that including bust shaping actually empowers knitters to choose a size based on their upper bust instead.
Right.
Yeah. Because
it makes that available.
Yeah. I didn't want to do that in a pattern that didn't include bust darts, because I'm like, but I don't want it to be really tight in my bust. And as someone with a juicy bicep, when as a knitter in the past, when I'm working for other people's designs, I'd be like, well, the bigger size for the bigger bust will have a bigger bicep. And so I guess that's really my size. No, my upper bust doesn't match, but like, that's my size. So it's been liberating for me and like for my testers, to have that added in. Right. But then we're talking about Brenda's question, really, like how much is the designer's responsibility and how much of it is a partnership with the knitter. And I do know that a lot of knitters want a lot of things spelled out for them. And that's not wrong for you to desire that. But I would say that it's not actually possible for us to do that, even in a 40-page pattern. I don't know every single person who's going to buy my pattern and what their measurements are, and I can't help everyone. And like I said before, like I think sometimes when we try to help too many people, we end up not really helping very many, because the more specific
the knitting experience, yeah,
and the more specific I am about like this is the adjustment you need to make if you want to make this adjustment, the more likely you are, because this is what I would do as a knitter, to just do that. And then if that doesn't work, then what is that? Like, then it's the same amount of harm as not including it at all. So I am more interested in like offering resources and directing people towards how to learn how to do this. Because like, listen, y'all, any garment is an advanced knitting piece. Like I learned how to knit with scarves and swatches, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time you're making a 3-dimensional object, you're advancing as a knitter. And that means you've already learned so much, and you absolutely are able to learn XYZ about how to customize your garment. And once you figure it out for one, it becomes easy to repeat for others, you know?
And so this is really our advice, right? At the end of this is begin to do some experimentation. Begin to have some fun with it. Do a little bit of playing. I often will tell knitters, try one modification per sweater. You don't have to make the world's best fitting sweater. It's okay to experiment with one. And you might find it very useful to find one that already includes the modification. So if you think you're somebody who could benefit from a bust adjustment, find a pattern that includes that. Then you'll know how easy it is to just go back and add that into all of your patterns yourself. You'll be like, oh, I find the center stitch, I figure out how many rows I want to add, and I do it.
Yeah.
So do some experimentation. Mark off some time on your knitting calendar to get the perfect fit in one sweater. And I think we talked about having a resource to offer. And, you know, when we were planning this, I didn't think that I wanted to offer one, but I think I would suggest that knitters pick up a copy of my favorite sewing book, which is the Palmer and Pletch tissue fitting book that I recommend all the time. And it's on my website, and I'll put it in the notes. But it's about fitting a pattern to your body, which doesn't sound like it would be applicable to knitters. But what it really is page after page of showing what happens when you do have a fit issue, where things will bunch up, how you will diagnose it, and where you need to add extra fabric or remove fabric to fix it. So even just paging through that a little bit every night before bed is going to help you begin to see, oh, this is why this is tugging here. This is why this is pulling. Like, I thought this was that I needed a deeper neck, but really I just need more length in my back yoke, right? So
yeah, I love that. I need a copy of that book myself. And since we're offering resources, I'm going to say, I would recommend, if this is something like you really want to learn how to custom fit for yourself, that tech editors and coaches like do not only offer consulting for designers. Like, you can approach a tech editor or someone who offers consulting like Jen as a knitter and say, like, can you help me figure out what kinds of adjustments I need to make and how do I make them, so that you have a map. And that can be pretty reasonable in terms of cost, especially compared to the cost of knitting sweaters that don't fit you, right?
Yeah, I definitely have a few knitters where I have either regraded a pattern to fit them in their size, which is a bigger investment, or I will kind of do this thing where I live work with them, where I tell them exactly what I'm doing as I modify a pattern for them. So yeah, there are ways that you can get support even as a knitter on those custom modifications that will be an investment in your wardrobe and in your knitting pleasure for the rest of your life. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, what do you want to talk about next time we meet?
Well, the next time that we meet tomorrow, we're actually going to be talking about my bod and my Ruffle Addendum. So we're excited to share that with you tomorrow. Please stay tuned.
This is the boob episode, right? That's the boob episode.
I mean, I guess so. I guess tomorrow is the boob episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk about upper and full chest.
It's going to be my boob episode for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be about your boobs. But also about your armhole depth and your biceps and your upper chest.
Yeah. It's going to be about how I ended up as a straight size knitter and a designer with a knit from a great designer that did not fit me. And we're excited to talk about that with you. And we want to hear from you about what you wish you knew when you started designing, and or what you would like to know if you have any questions because you're design curious, or even if you're not design curious, if you just have questions about what the design process is like, please submit them. You can find our podcast email in the show notes, and or if you reach out to me or Jen, otherwise we will hoard those questions. If your question isn't read, by the way, I think we're going to have like a big question episode at some point. So please know we value you.
We're hoarding your questions.
Yeah, we just have to choose for each episode, like which questions we think fit in there, right?
Yeah.
And what else? What are you excited about to share as we're getting ready to say goodbye?
No, I don't know. It's funny because I'm like, oh, when is this going to air? What am I going to be excited about? I don't know, man. I think right now I'm just still really excited about classes. I've got some classes upcoming for learning about bust darts and how to put them into your garments that I think that knitters who want to learn more about this topic might really benefit from. So let's say that's what I'm excited about right now.
Yeah, and I'm putting my bralette out there. I need testers. I have designed a size inclusive bralette with cup sizes and bust darts as well as cup shaping. It's going to be epic, and I want your help. Please, whatever your boobs look like, please put them in a knit bralette. You can find the information for that likely on my Instagram page at this point, or if my test has not yet been released at this time, then I'm slightly behind schedule, but know that it is coming. It's coming.
That was maybe I'll test Bess's bralette face if you didn't see it on the screen.
Oh my God, I would be honored. Honored.
I feel like I owe you a test. You've tested so many of my designs for me. I definitely owe you one.
Well, I learned from test knitting, and I learned a lot from you, Jen.
Yeah, it would be fun. And I know you would do a very thoughtful, tender job with it, and I could trust you with my boobs. So
yeah, well, and I may or may not ask you for help along the way.
So it would be easier for me to weigh in if I actually had it on the needles. Okay, cool. Well, y'all got to see that little behind the scenes. Hope that was fun. You can find all of our stuff down below, and we're on Instagram. We have websites. We have emails. We're on Ravelry and PayHip, and we'll put all the links in the notesy notes.
Mm-hmm. And thank you. Thank you guys for being here and listening and sending questions and helping us to expand our community of knitters. We want to offer a place for people to start that we both wish we had when we got started, right? So here we are.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Happy knitting. Bye-bye.